The discovery. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display, her hands trembling as she reviewed the data for the fourth time. The statistics couldn't be right, but they were. Thousands of children had vanished from Earth's most remote regions over the past 3 decades, their disappearances perfectly timed with supposed meteor showers. "Admiral Hayes, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite the horror churning in her gut. The head of Earth's Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative approached, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holographic display. The facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains had been monitoring alien communications for years. They'd known about the galactic hegemony for decades, a vast empire spanning thousands of star systems. Earth had been deemed too primitive for contact, an assessment they'd carefully maintained through calculated misinformation and strategic technological concealment. These energy signatures, Sarah pointed to a series of wavelength patterns. They match perfectly with the children's disappearances. But it's what we found in the decoded transmissions that confirms it. She pulled up another display, this one showing shipping manifests written in the hegemony's standard trade language. Admiral Hayes's face hardened as he read the translated text. Biological resources, suitable for neural adaptation, minimal technological exposure. Earth origin specimens. Each phrase landed like a physical blow. "They're taking our children for their neural plasticity," Sarah explained, her clinical tone masking rage. "Their society is heavily augmented, cybernetic and biological modifications are common. But their own children often reject the modifications. Human children, our children, their brains adapt more easily." The Admiral's knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the console. Earth's carefully maintained facade of technological backwardness had come at a terrible price. While they'd developed in secret, building defenses and studying alien technology, the hegemony had been systematically abducting Earth's most vulnerable. "How many?" he asked. "At least 15,000 over the past 30 years. They target remote villages, isolated communities, places where disappearances might be explained away or simply not reported." Sarah pulled up another display, this one showing medical data intercepted from a hegemony research facility. The images showed children, human children, connected to machines, their small bodies altered with cybernetic implants. The success rate was listed at 62%. "And the other 38%? Hayes asked, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. "Listed as resource depletion," Sarah replied, her voice cracking slightly. The Admiral straightened, squaring his shoulders. "Send everything to the Security Council. Immediate classified session." He turned to leave, then paused. "Dar. Chen, how long have you known about this?" "Final confirmation came through an hour ago. But I've been tracking the pattern for months. I had to be certain before." She trailed off. Hayes nodded. "You did the right thing. And now we're going to do what we should have done years ago." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They thought we were primitive. Let them learn just how advanced humanity can be when protecting its own." Sarah turned back to her displays, already compiling the data for the Security Council. In the reflection of the holographic screen, she could see the massive hangar beyond her lab. Row upon row of advanced spacecraft sat waiting, vessels that combined reverse-engineered alien tech with human innovation. Ships they'd built in secret, preparing for the day they'd need to defend Earth. That day had come, but not for the reason they'd expected. They weren't fighting for territory or resources or even survival. They were fighting for their children. And the hegemony was about to learn that nothing in the galaxy was more dangerous than humans protecting their young. As emergency alerts began flashing across global military networks, Sarah allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction. The hegemony had made 3 critical mistakes: they'd underestimated humanity's technological capabilities, they'd assumed Earth's apparent primitiveness meant weakness, and most fatally, they'd harmed Earth's children. The response would shatter their empire. Silent preparation. The Geneva bunker hummed with activity as leaders from every major nation gathered in unprecedented secrecy. Fleet Admiral Hayes stood before the assembled group, the evidence of the hegemony's crimes displayed behind him in stark detail. Operation Ghost Shield begins today, Hayes announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. For 20 years, we've maintained the illusion of technological inferiority. Now that deception becomes our greatest weapon. Colonel Maya Patel stepped forward, her quantum tactical display illuminating the room with a three-dimensional map of known hegemony installations. Our stealth vessels have mapped their primary child processing facilities. They're arrogant, their defenses focused on threats from other advanced civilizations. They're not watching for us. The room's attention shifted to Dr. James Morrison, head of Earth's Cybernetic Warfare Division. The neural implants they're using on our children? He touched a control, bringing up detailed schematics. We've decoded their basic architecture. Every modified child becomes a node in their network. They thought they were creating tools, instead, they've given us a backdoor into their entire empire. President Li of the Chinese Federation leaned forward. How many can we save? All of them, Morrison replied without hesitation. The implants can be reversed. We've been preparing for this since we first suspected their activities. The medical ships are ready. The Australian Prime Minister raised a hand. The hegemony's fleet numbers in the thousands. We have what, 100 ships? Hayes smiled grimly. Quality over quantity. While they've stagnated, relying on stolen innovations, we've been evolving. Our ships combine their tech with human ingenuity. We don't need to match their numbers, we just need to hit them where it hurts. A holographic display activated, showing Earth's hidden fleet. Sleek vessels unlike anything in the hegemony's armada. Ships designed not for shows of force, but for precise, devastating strikes. The Artemis-class vessels, Colonel Patel explained, can penetrate their detection grids using phase-shift technology. The Thanatos-class carriers house our breakthrough in drone warfare, swarms that can overwhelm their automated defenses. And the Prometheus-class medical ships can extract and treat the children while remaining completely invisible to their sensors. Dr. Chen, newly promoted to head of strategic intelligence, stepped up. We've identified their command and control nodes. Their overconfidence means they've never faced a serious challenge to their systems. The backdoor through the neural network gives us access to everything. We strike in phases, Hayes continued. First, we sever their communication networks. Then we isolate the facilities holding our children. Finally, we extract our people and deliver a message they'll never forget. The Russian Federation's leader spoke up. And after? They'll know Earth's true capabilities. Let them know, Hayes replied. Let them understand that humanity's apparent weakness was a choice. One they made us regret. The next 12 hours saw Earth's military machine shift into full gear, all while maintaining the illusion of normalcy to hegemony observation posts. Stealth ships slipped past their satellites, positioning themselves near key targets. Special Forces units, equipped with reverse-engineered hegemony tech enhanced by human innovation, prepared for boarding actions. In her lab, Dr. Chen made final adjustments to the virus that would turn the hegemony's neural network against them. Not to harm the children, never that, but to blind and confuse their systems at the critical moment. Testing complete, she announced to Hayes, who stood watching. When we trigger this, every implanted child becomes a beacon we can track. The hegemony won't be able to hide a single one. Hayes nodded slowly. How many children do we think are still alive? Current estimates suggest around 12,000. The others? She trailed off. The others will be avenged, Hayes finished. Initiate final countdown. Operation Ghost Shield commences in 6 hours. As the Earth prepared for war, maintaining its mask of primitive simplicity until the last possible moment, the hegemony continued its operations in blissful ignorance. They had no way of knowing that their empire's greatest defeat would come not from their advanced rivals, but from a world they dismissed as insignificant. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their hidden technology or their strategic deception. It was in the fierce, unrelenting fury of a species protecting its young. Operation Stormbreak. The first strike began with silence. Across hegemony space, communication networks suddenly went dark. Their quantum relays, the backbone of their vast empire, blinked out one by one. No alarm sounded, there was nothing to detect. Earth's virus, propagated through their own neural network, had already done its work. Captain Diana Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the EFS Nightshade, watching as her stealth carrier slipped through the hegemony's sensor grid. The massive processing facility on Nexus Prime loomed ahead, its surface dotted with industrial complexes where children were transformed into tools for the Empire. Strike teams report ready, her XO reported. Prometheus medical ships in position. Drone swarms primed. Diana allowed herself a small smile. Send the wake-up call. Across the facility, every augmented human child received the same message through their neural implants: stay calm. Close your eyes. Help is coming. The hegemony's first warning came as their atmospheric defense grid suddenly turned inward, targeting their own installations. Security robots froze in place. Doors sealed or opened at random. In the confusion, they never saw the drop pods coming. Earth's special forces, clad in phase-shift armor that made them appear as little more than heat distortions, breached the facility at 12 points simultaneously. Their weapons, hybrid designs combining hegemony energy tech with human ballistic principles, cut through security forces with surgical precision. Team Alpha, Southeast Quadrant secure. 23 children located, came the first report. Team Delta, medical ward cleared. 41 children, all stable. The reports continued as Earth's forces moved through the facility like ghosts. The hegemony's defenders found themselves fighting an enemy they could barely see, using weapons that seemed to anticipate and counter their every tactic. In orbit, the real battle began. The hegemony's response fleet arrived to find themselves engaged not by traditional warships, but by swarms of autonomous drones. Each drone was a tiny fraction of the size of their capital ships, but they moved with coordinated intelligence, targeting shield generators and weapon systems with unerring accuracy. Drone swarm beta engaging capital ships, Diana reported to Fleet Command. Enemy point defense systems are overwhelmed. Their targeting can't keep up with our adaptive algorithms. The hegemony commanders, used to fighting traditional space battles, found their sophisticated weapons useless against an enemy that thought in microseconds and adapted in real time. Their ships, designed to trade broadsides with equal foes, couldn't track the thousands of tiny attackers that stripped away their defenses layer by layer. On the ground, Dr. Chen coordinated the medical evacuation. Each child was carefully disconnected from the hegemony systems, their implants reprogrammed to maintain vital functions while blocking external control. 60% of targets secured, she reported. Monitoring neural patterns, they're scared but stable. The preparation is paying off. The hegemony's response grew more desperate as reports flooded in from across their territory. Similar attacks were happening simultaneously at every facility housing Earth's children. Their mighty fleet, spread thin trying to respond to multiple crises, found itself unable to effectively counter these hit-and-run tactics. They're bringing in reinforcements, Diana noted, watching as more hegemony ships emerged from hyperspace. Right on schedule. The second phase of Earth's attack began. From the shadows of Nexus Prime's moons emerged Earth's capital ships, vessels that had remained hidden until this moment. Unlike the utilitarian designs of the hegemony, these ships represented the peak of human military innovation. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Diana commanded. Show them what we've learned while they weren't watching. The Earth fleet engaged, but not in the traditional broadside battles the hegemony expected. Instead, they executed complex maneuvers that seemed to defy physics, their hybrid drives allowing them to shift position faster than their enemies could track. Each shot was precisely calculated, targeting weaknesses that only Earth's long study of hegemony technology had revealed. As the battle reached its peak, Diana received the message she'd been waiting for: final group of children secured. Medical ships away. Primary objective accomplished. She nodded grimly. Send the message. Across every hegemony communication channel, in every facility and ship in the system, the same words appeared: this was a rescue mission. The next will be a reckoning. Earth protects its own. The Earth fleet disappeared as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind crippled hegemony ships and a facility stripped of its captives. The message was clear: humanity was done hiding, and the hegemony's crimes would not go unpunished. The Empire strikes. The hegemony's response was predictably overwhelming. Their armada, thousands of ships strong, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. At their head was the sovereign dreadnought, a vessel the size of a small moon, its hull bearing the scars of 1,000 victories. But Earth was waiting. They brought exactly what we expected, Admiral Hayes observed from the command center beneath Mount Cheyenne. Arrogance makes them predictable. Dr. Chen's holographic form appeared beside him, transmitted from her position on the EFS Nightshade. The neural network is still compromised. They don't even realize we're reading their battle plans in real time. The hegemony's declaration boomed across all frequencies: primitive world, you have committed acts of war against the Eternal Empire. Surrender your weapons and submit to imperial justice, or face extinction. Hayes allowed himself a small smile. Send our response. Across Earth's major cities, massive holographic shields flickered to life, technology the hegemony had thought far beyond humanity's grasp. From beneath the oceans, hidden bases revealed themselves. The moon's surface shifted as concealed shipyards emerged from beneath regolith camouflage. Earth's real fleet, not just the 100 ships that had participated in the rescue mission, but thousands of vessels, rose to meet the threat. Each one represented decades of reverse engineering combined with human innovation. They looked confused, Captain Rodriguez noted from her position leading the orbital defense grid. Amazing how much harder it is to intimidate someone when they're not actually primitive. The hegemony fleet advanced, their formation perfect, their numbers overwhelming. Their first volley, enough firepower to crack a planet, struck Earth's defensive shields and dissipated harmlessly. Return fire, Hayes commanded. Show them what we've learned. Earth's response wasn't the crude barrage the hegemony expected. Instead, precise beams of energy targeted seemingly random points on their ships. The hegemony commanders realized too late that Earth had spent decades studying their shield harmonics, finding the exact frequencies needed to penetrate their defenses. The battle erupted across the solar system. Earth's ships, smaller but far more maneuverable, executed combat maneuvers that the hegemony's tactical computers classified as impossible. Drone swarms disabled capital ships with surgical precision. Earth's fighters seemed to predict enemy movements before they happened, because they were reading the commands through the compromised neural network. Their flagship is targeting Washington, an analyst reported. As expected, Hayes nodded. Activate the gravity well. As the sovereign dreadnought prepared to fire its planet-killer weapon, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to fold around it, trapping the massive vessel in a localized gravity field that Earth's scientists had spent years developing. Send the boarding teams, Hayes ordered. Phase-shifted drop pods launched from Earth's ships, carrying special forces trained specifically for this moment. They breached the dreadnought's hull at calculated weak points, their hybrid weapons cutting through internal defenses. The hegemony's crew, used to fighting opponents who matched their tactics, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to play by the expected rules. Earth's soldiers moved like ghosts through their ships, their armor adapting to counter each weapon they encountered. Central control room secured, came the report from the boarding team's leader. You'll want to see this, Admiral. The data streaming back from the dreadnought confirmed their worst fears, and justified their actions. The ship's databanks contained records of countless atrocities, not just against Earth but dozens of other, primitive, worlds. The hegemony's empire was built on the exploitation of those they deemed inferior. Broadcast everything, Hayes commanded. Let every species in their empire see what their eternal rulers have been doing. As the truth spread across the galaxy, the hegemony's fleet fell into chaos. Many ships, commanded by officers who had never known the full scope of their empire's crimes, broke formation. Some fled. Others turned their weapons on their own command ships. The battle for Earth became a revolution that spread across the stars. Dr. Chen's hologram flickered as she delivered her report, receiving transmissions from other worlds. They're rising up. The hegemony's control is breaking everywhere. Hayes nodded grimly. They thought they could break us by stealing our children. Instead, they gave us the key to their destruction. He turned to his communications officer. Send the final message. Across every screen in the hegemony fleet, words appeared in their own language: you should have left our children alone. The battle for Earth would be remembered not just as a military victory, but as the day humanity revealed itself as the architect of an empire's fall. Liberation. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the hegemony's once mighty empire lay in fragments. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the medical ship EFS Hope, watching as another group of rescued children emerged from neural reconstruction. The last facility, she whispered, more to herself than to Admiral Hayes who stood beside her. We finally found them all. The massive medical complex floating in Earth's orbit had become a symbol of humanity's commitment. Not just to vengeance, but to healing. Every rescued child received personalized care, their implants carefully removed or reprogrammed, their traumas addressed by teams of specialists. Final count? Hayes asked, his voice softer than usual. 11,842 survivors, Chen replied. Each one representing a family that never lost hope. She paused, checking her data tablet. The rehabilitation process is exceeding expectations. The children's neural plasticity, the very thing the hegemony sought to exploit, is helping them recover. Below them, Earth shimmered like a blue jewel. The defense platforms that had saved the planet now served as waypoints for ships from dozens of formerly suppressed civilizations. The hegemony's fall had revealed a galaxy full of species who had suffered similar exploitation. Captain Rodriguez, recently promoted to fleet commander, joined them on the observation deck. The coalition meeting is about to begin, she announced. Representatives from 37 species are waiting. Hayes nodded. Time to build something better. The conference chamber aboard the orbital station Unity represented a new beginning. Species that the hegemony had classified as primitive now sat together as equals. Earth, as the catalyst of liberation, held a position of respect, but not dominance. Dr. Morrison, who had led the effort to decode and repurpose hegemony technology, presented the coalition's cornerstone proposal. We've developed a system to share technological advancement freely between worlds, he explained. No more artificial hierarchies. No more exploitation of developing civilizations. The alien representatives, some humanoid, others wildly different, listened intently as humanity outlined its vision for a new galactic society. Not an empire built on subjugation, but a federation founded on mutual respect and protection. We propose the establishment of the Stellar Guardian Protocol, Hayes announced. Any aggression against children of any species will be met with unified response. What happened to Earth's children must never happen again, to anyone. The vote was unanimous. As the conference concluded, Dr. Chen received an alert on her neural interface, a technology now safely adapted for human use. A girl named Maya, one of the first children they'd rescued, wanted to speak with her. In the medical bay, Maya sat surrounded by holographic displays. Like many of the rescued children, she had chosen to keep some of her augmentations, but now they served her rather than enslaved her. "I want to help others," Maya declared. "Like you helped me." Chen smiled. "We're establishing a new program. The children who want to stay involved can train as guardians, protectors of other developing civilizations. To make sure no one else goes through what we did." "Exactly." The next day, as Chen watched the first volunteer group of recovered children begin their guardian training, she reflected on how humanity's greatest tragedy had led to its finest hour. The Earth that had hidden its advancement for so long now stood proudly as a beacon of protection for developing civilizations across the galaxy. Admiral Hayes joined her one final time on the observation deck. "The last hegemony holdouts surrendered this morning," he reported. "It's really over." Chen shook her head. "Not over. Just beginning." She gestured to the stars visible through the view screen. "We've learned that power isn't about dominance. It's about protection. That's humanity's real strength." Below them, Earth continued its orbit, its cities now openly displaying technology that had been hidden for decades. But its greatest achievement wasn't in its advanced ships or weapons. It was in the laughter of children who had come home, in the alliance of species who had found common cause, and in the promise that in this vast galaxy, the strong would no longer prey upon the weak. Humanity had emerged from its artificial darkness not as conquerors, but as guardians. And the stars themselves seemed brighter for it.